Hi, I'm Allison.
Hi, I'm Kara.
Welcome to our weekly podcast where we talk all things career, beauty, and lifestyle.
It's time for Beauty Break. Hello, welcome back to another exciting, fun episode of Beauty Break. I'm Kara.
I'm Allison.
And today is going to be our first
Beauty breakdown.
So that means we have a special guest that we're going to talk about beauty and a lot of other things too.
Yes. Okay, so you guys, last episode we were in my salon suite. This episode we're in my salon suite still, but I just had some fun things happen today. A group came in to rent my whole entire space out and do hair for a bunch of beauty editors. So you can actually see behind us, they were working on Dr. Groot, I think skin, scalp care health stuff.
Oh, nice.
So they left a bunch of stuff, as you can see in the back. So I'm excited to play with those.
Cool.
But before we dive into our beauty breakdown and tell you all about our guest, we wanted to top off with maybe just a little bit of a conversation of things that we have been seeing from our clients this past week. So I'm going to talk about some gray stuff for those nasty gray hairs that people seem to be very angry about. So we're going to calm the nerves and discuss maybe why they come in so unruly. And Kara's going to talk about, I think, what did you say you wanted to chat about? Maybe winter skin?
Yeah, it's finally gotten cold in the Northeast. The air is a lot drier, so a lot of people are coming in with dry and dehydrated skin. And typically people think, okay, let's get that dryness off, so let's exfoliate. So, I just want to caution people, when the weather gets cold, you want to actually not exfoliate as much because your skin needs more support. So more like nourishing, hydrating products, and cut back on the exfoliation.
Yeah, that's so interesting because for the longest time, I really did think dry skin, get it out. Get it off,
right,
and just make it worse
in some cases.
Yeah,
but also don't let that be the first thing you go to is exfoliate.
Okay.
Because you can compromise the barrier more, especially when it's so dry, right? And there's that lack of humidity, so don't exfoliate as much in the winter months.
Any skincare products that you're loving right now that you want to know about?
There's a really great new hyaluronic acid with peptide serum, really simple. So, you can introduce a hyaluronic acid product, which is a humectant. It's going to draw and keep moisture in the skin. And it's really easy to layer and just incorporate it into your existing products. So you cleanse, maybe use a hydrating toner, and then put on the serum and then your moisturizer. So depending on how dry your skin is, you could do it once or twice a day.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Kara.
Hair tips.
Yes. Okay, let's talk about some hair color things here today. So we're talking about gray hair specifically. I had a client pop in today. Actually not today. What day is it? It's Thursday. She came in on Monday, and she is on the younger side of her 20s and is experiencing her first gray hairs, which I know can be a struggle for many women and men, but I feel like for the initial gray pop-ins, it starts to become alarming when the texture changes. I know I do Kara's color once a month, and her grays have two different textures to her actual hair texture that has still her natural hair color in it.
I mean, wait, each hair shaft has two different textures, or the different hair shafts have different textures?
Different hair shafts have different textures. So your natural hair is going to feel smoother.
Yeah.
And your gray hair is going to feel more coarse.
Oh, right.
And the reasoning behind that is because our hair grows with a bulb, and then there's a little sebaceous gland sac. And then it perfectly grows through the what? The follicle. Okay, so that sebaceous gland sac is so important for the lubrication of that hair strand through the follicle. When that sac becomes dry and maybe you don't feel as moisturized up in your scalp when you start to become gray, or if you are currently very gray, you will notice that change in texture. And the reason is because when that little oil sac is nice and, let's say, plush, it's producing enough lubrication for your follicle shape of your hair to stay wrapped, right? So that's going to give you that long, straight, shiny strand.
Mhm.
So when that sac is not lubricated properly and it's just kind of like starting to dry up, that shape of your follicle is going to become compressed. And unfortunately, what that does is as your hair grows out, it starts to almost kink it. Right. So your hair is growing like at half an inch a month. So in between each little phase of growth, that follicle goes wide and then tighter and then wide again. And that's going to, in my mind, like almost kink
Right.
the hair. Right. So it's kind of the same concept of like ripping, a ribbon. Right. If you don't like properly use the shears with the ribbon, it gets that wonky piece.
Yeah.
Right. So that's another thing to just use in your brain for the mental image. But so the ways to kind of combat that are bringing blood flow to the scalp. So you can do brushing every night. I don't need you to be like scrubbing your scalp. It's just we want blood
Circulation.
circulating, to bring that, sebaceous gland a little bit more
Active.
nutrient, right? Yeah, and I have to be honest, we don't know exactly why hair truly goes gray either.
Yeah.
So we also don't know why the sebaceous gland starts to like fall apart in a sense and not be as lubricated. So yeah, I wanted to just touch base on that a tiny bit to bring awareness to why grays do have the texture they have. And it's you're not doing anything wrong. It's Mother Nature.
Yeah.
Love your grays.
So massage your head more.
Massage your head more.
Yeah.
Bring some blood flow.
What about those little silicone brushes?
Love
To shampoo it?
do it.
Okay.
I love that. Even just at home.
Yeah.
After a ponytail's been up here all day. I love a slip back, but like you need to bring the blood back.
Yeah, because it's also helping with lymphatic movement and everything, helps with everything.
Exactly.
So, okay, cool.
Okay. Yeah.
Now on to the main event.
Let's
Our
talk.
first beauty breakdown.
Oh, I'm so excited. Okay, you guys, we have a phenomenal guest popping on today. I'm so excited to welcome our first beauty breakdown guest, Ella Cajayon. Yay, welcome, Ella.
Hi, Al.
Hi. Okay, before we get her on here, I just want to touch a little bit on how I know Ella, where she has popped up in my life, and it has been in every huge monumental move of my career. So that's why I just felt like podcast guest number one has to be Ella. She's been a dear, dear friend of mine and has helped me so much with my business. She is a copywriter. She has worked for iconic brands like Ralph Lauren, Marc Jacobs, Ulta Beauty. She's had a dedicated career in shaping the narrative of beauty through words. Ella understands how language can evoke emotions, create connections, and elevate the importance of self-expression. Her perspective is thoughtful, layered, offering a rare look at the artistry behind beauty messaging. We can't wait to dive into her approach of storytelling in the beauty industry and hear her thoughts on how words continue to shape our understanding of beauty. Welcome, Ella.
Hi, Ella.
Hello. What an intro. Thank you so, so much. Really appreciate that. I'm like blushing from over here.
Oh, well, we are so grateful to have you here. And thank you for always being a ride or die for me and just being a team player on wanting to, try things out for me and my career. So I really appreciate you popping on today.
Oh my gosh, right back at ya.
You guys know each other from high school, right?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yes, way back when.
Amazing.
Yeah. And now we're both in our 30s in New York City.
Yeah, I love it. So good. Yeah, Ella, tell us a little bit about what you're doing now. What projects are you working on? Where are you at?
Yes, so based in Brooklyn, New York, I'm freelance copywriting, so juggling between a few brands. But right now, a fun one is I'm working with Complex on their holiday market. So they're selling like vinyl, skateboards, sneakers, all these cool items for the holidays, and then just helping them out with their website.
Incredible.
That's exciting.
Thank you.
So I have been a big fan of your Substack for a hot minute because you can go on there and check out your writing, not just copywriting, but also just who you are as a person. And I have to say, your voice is it's almost like addicting to read. And I find so much of we were actually talking about this earlier. We find such a I like to call you my like Carrie Bradshaw of New York City
Oh,
because you have this like Sex in the City like undertone of just like seize the day, but also like things are effed up in this world, you know? So I love your tone in all that you write. So
Very charming. Very relatable. Yeah, I love it.
all right. So, Ella, we would love to now just kind of like throw some questions at you, see where they go and your feelings on them. The whole concept of the beauty breakdown is to break down just how beauty has influenced maybe you or your writing or your journey in beauty, and just break it down for us in your career and just give us whatever you want to get, and we're here to take it. So, first question is how to go about making messages feel relatable for the everyday person with the big brands that you have worked with?
yes. So, I've gotten so lucky to work for multiple big brands. And being a copywriter, I always think of it as you put your journalist hat on. And I really think about, it's not so much, okay, what am I going to write that's going to feel real? Because that almost feels inauthentic to force an intentional message of what makes this real. But maybe more so, specifically to a brand, what makes it attainable? So if I was writing for Ulta Beauty, for instance, whether it was a singular product or speaking to the brand as a whole, really asking myself, how would the everyday person see themselves? Why would this matter to them? Why would it be relevant? Why should they care? And just that attainable aspect of, okay, if I can see myself in this, that's why I'm going to want it. So really tapping into the what and the why.
Interesting. I like how it's like, if I don't like this, if I can't see myself in this, why would someone else? You know, I think that's a cool
Exactly.
take is like you're like, I feel like part of copywriting almost has this like entertainment element to it as well. Like words really do catch the eye. So I think that's very cool. I love. All right, here you ask some questions.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, and I think we sent you something about copywriters because
Yeah.
what I didn't know about copywriters really until I watched Mad Men, right? And, what was her name? Elizabeth Moss. What was her character? Anyway, so it was in the 50s. She was a copywriter, and it was such a man's world, and it was Don Draper, and they're so brilliant. But you don't know of any. I mean, there's no really famous copywriters these days that are household names, right?
I mean, unless I'm the worst copywriter in the world, nothing or no one really comes to mind as a household name, but I get the Mad Men reference all the time. I
Yeah,
also got Elaine from Seinfeld. I don't watch either,
Yeah.
but apparently Elaine's a copywriter, so
Yeah, I forgot
I mean,
about
they count, right?
Cajayon, I think she did this catalog. Yeah. Um, it's kind of surprising because there's so many famous catchphrases and
yeah.
that you would think that there would be
Ew.
right.
I haven't ever thought of it, but like, like the I'm loving it.
You're gonna be the first.
I love
Oh, yeah.
McDonald's.
Yeah.
I love McDonald's. So like, who wrote that?
Yeah.
Show us yourself. Like you're iconic. But like that's so interesting. Oh my gosh.
So, okay, so apart from copywriters, who kind of inspired you as far as writers or, journalists?
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm so flattered that you compared my Substack to Sex and the City because I think the modern version of that are these two advice columnists that I've been reading for years and years. There's this one woman named Dolly Alderton. She writes for the Sunday Times. And then there's Heather Havrilesky, and she used to write for the New York Magazine under the pseudonym of Ask Holly. They both have books that have a compilation of some of their best advice columns, but I just love everything they put out there because what's so great about an advice column is it's anonymous, right? But these are people sharing, honestly, similar to podcasts these days, some of their most vulnerable
Sure.
anecdotes and some of their most vulnerable questions. And I love the way they both approach their answers to these prompts because, I mean, they're very different in tone, but similar theme of it's just the right amount of considerate, but still very direct, still very honest, still very unbiased, with just like a hint of humor in there too. And it's very quippy, very concise. And I mean, I hope my writing comes across this way, but like it's addictive. You just want to keep going. You see yourself in it and you almost read it like a TV show. Like it really paints out such a beautiful visual story. And especially when you think of advice columns, sometimes you'll see a header and you're like, oh my gosh, it's something I've always wanted to ask, but I was too afraid to. Or it's just truly absurd. And you're like, wow, I can't believe this is someone's life right now. But either way, so engaging, so fascinating to me. And they both are still very alive and well, still present, very young. Highly recommend checking them out. I think they're both on Substack too. I guess that's just the way it is to go with the industry, but yeah, highly recommend.
Yeah, and it's what you're saying about Substack. It's so interesting too, how, like mainstream media, it's, moving over to Substack. There's so many writers
Yeah,
that don't need to be with these big, companies anymore, that are going on their own and having their own platform. It's amazing. I would love to check out these advice columnists you're talking about. It sounds really fun.
I'm definitely
Yeah, we could all use a little
Yes,
advice.
I know.
Right. Yeah.
We really all could use
Yeah.
advice. So I actually want to ask you, Ella, has there ever been kind of like a moment within working with a brand or with a company where maybe you felt like you were writing something that, the concept of like perfect or the image has to be this way and the feeling has to be that way? Is there ever a time where you feel like that has kind of like come into play, like the concept of like perfectionism into writing? And have you ever had to kind of like work through trying to maybe keep your writing like a healthier version for people to maybe feel attracted to versus like, oh, if I get this bad with, this, I'll feel this way? Or has writing ever kind of like come together in that way for you?
that's so interesting. And I feel like the answer is yes and no, depending on my different experiences at different brands. Like I'll say Ulta Beauty is so welcoming. They're all about the everyday person. And they really reiterated it's not about solving a problem to a quote unquote issue. It really is embracing who you are from the inside out. And so I'd say to that end, from that experience, definitely didn't fear or have an issue with speaking to perfectionism, more so just truly embracing who you are on the inside out, finding the right products to truly utilize and embrace who you are. But then there's definitely other brands that I won't name that I think just by the nature of editorial, perfectionism is just what gets sent out. That is the image that they want to put out there. And that just all a majority of the industry has known. Thankfully, with my writing, I never felt like I was selling an image that was unattainable. But I think just trying to skew it in a way of aspirational, but we're not saying that there's anything you're missing. Your life isn't going to not go on if you don't buy this brand. But I think going back to what I said earlier of how do you make it about you? How do you make it so it's not only attainable, but just personable? It's not intimidating. It's not threatening. It's something that you're inspired by, but not something so out of reach that it feels like almost a turnoff for being so far out there.
Or intimidate,
Yeah.
right? You don't want to intimidate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also you're still trying
Yeah.
to select or sell a brand or something
Yeah.
too. So
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
balancing between the two. So that's interesting. Very, very.
But I guess there's also like some high-end brands where they want to capture that kind of unattainable, aspirational, right? Kind of,
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. And I think there's a way to sell almost the dream of that without it feeling like, oh, there's something wrong with me that I'm not in that dream. It can still be inclusive, but inspiring.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah, me too.
That sounds like a healthy take.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a healthy take.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yes.
We love health.
Wow.
Health is wealth.
Health.
Yes.
Okay, wait. Now that we're talking about health, I have a question for you. And I know we've kind of talked about this before, but we've talked about like the social media face. And I think that's like an interesting just topic to jump on and see your thoughts on it, because it kind of coincides with about like shaping one's idea of like what is beauty. And I love how like you can shape it with words and stuff, but I think there's also this like weird new thing that's starting to pop in where it's like everything is starting to look the same. Where I mean, I even see it sometimes in trends with hair color where it's like one day I'm just doing almost to a T, like the same inspo, the same celebrity, the same. So what are your guys' thoughts on that? And like, how has that like kind of jumped into your industries?
So for me, it's more about like the latest gadget, right? Or the latest treatment or tweakment that people are taking.
Wait, I love a tweakment.
Tweakments.
Sounds like that word.
Yeah, and I didn't make that up. So like a tweakment is like saying, getting like threading inside your cheeks.
It's a tweak.
Or it's like tweaking your appearance. So there's all this, like plastic surgery stuff or dermatology stuff. So I kind of get, like stuff trending on TikTok, clients coming in and asking about that stuff.
Yeah.
And usually using too many beauty products and doing weird things with beauty products, or like rubbing banana peels on their face because they've seen it on TikTok. Like that happens. So, so
banana peel.
Yes. That's some kind of potassium or something that's supposed to help. So, that's how it translates into what I do.
Okay.
It's like the latest,
gadget
or product.
Wait, before I share, what is the weirdest thing you've heard on your end? I mean, the banana peel thing, I've never heard of. Now I'm so intrigued.
I mean, that's pretty weird. Oh my gosh. I don't know if this was a hoax, but there were a few, stories going about putting, poop on your face.
Stop.
Yeah.
Oh,
You're about to say that.
That was going around a little bit. So, but sometimes I just think it's like outrage stuff, right? So people will get clicks. So that's about the craziest.
Oh, and they also, there's that whole thing about like your period blood too. I've seen that one.
Right.
no.
I've heard that about the skin, but I'm trying to think for hair. I don't know. I mean, there's the classic stuff, right? Like crack an egg on your head.
Right. Mayonnaise
Or a spear. I mean, there is a science behind some of these ideas. However, I will say like the products are going to get you there better.
Yeah.
Like, and also too, even coconut oil, people are obsessed with the coconut oil situation. And a lot of the times coconut oil is not going to be moisturizing for your hair because the coconut oil molecule is massive and it's not really going to penetrate. So sometimes you need to have different, substances mixed together to support the coconut oil massive molecule and also give you that moisture. But I think that's like I don't know. I haven't had any like really crazy ones.
Oh, wait. So, and then for Ella, for social media.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, oh my gosh, I've been thinking so much about the social media face phenomenon because I'm struggling between like what's a trend, which has always been a thing no matter what year, what terminology you had for it. I mean, before there was Sabrina Carpenter haircuts, there was, the Rachel from Friends haircut. And so I think we always had that essence. Like, I guess the whole point of a trend is people are jumping on it. A majority wants to achieve that look. And I guess I ask myself, like, what's the fine line between it's a trend that people identify with because they like what they're seeing and they want to try it versus it's a uniform to solely like conform or to feel a sense of acceptance. I mean, Allie and I went to high school together and like not to age us, but early 2000s, there was an unspoken uniform. Like, we
Yeah.
all have the same North Face jacket. We all have the same Uggs. We flat ironed our hair dead. We have the chunky highlights. Like,
We all permed our hair.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Yeah.
But I think that also brings us to that concept though of like there is that like inherent societal like chosen choice of beauty, right? So yeah, I think with the social media face concept, it's that like it's almost sad because being different is maybe what some people would say isn't beautiful, but I think that is the most beautiful. Like being different
Yeah.
as the beauty, being authentic, which was your word, yes, or last episode of what beauty is, and mine was confident. So like I think that the concept of like being the same isn't in my mind the most beautiful. I think that like being unique is like it is the most important thing.
Yeah, or like on the flip side, like in high school, I was so shy and I felt like it was two things. It's like I felt like, oh yeah, wearing the North Face, wearing the Uggs, I wanted to. It's not like I felt like that wasn't me, but at the same time, I think that sameness gave me that boost of confidence. Like, okay, I can share the space with the
Yeah.
people around me. I look like them. It
Yeah.
gave me a little bit more of a belonging. But then I think what's interesting about social media face I think maybe there's such a negative connotation to it because it's just more out there. Like social media is in our face. It's more advertised. We have more terms for all these different trends. Like I was texting Allie, like there's a core for everything. Like there was cottage core and there was like old money aesthetic and all these random expressions. And there's always been trends.
Yeah.
So it's not that there's more trends than before. At least I don't think so. I think we're just talking about it more.
Yeah. And I think it's also something too where even it comes into the writing, like if you write like old money hair report, people can be like, oh, I saw that. But it's like that's the quote instead of like people are not highlighting their hair as much anymore. Here's why. It's like,
Right.
it's like the term now is like the trend term versus like the trend is, an approach to something. It's just like we're giving like labels on every single thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. And it's a lot of clickbait too, right? Because you want people to like look at it, right? To notice it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. Allie, Ella, what does beauty mean to you?
I think that question is so sweet. I think it's so layered too. Like
Yeah.
when I first hear what does beauty mean to me, I think of my first memories of beauty. Like my first makeup bag I got for Christmas, and my dad was livid. He's like, she is not ready for nail polish. She's not ready for eyeshadow. And that was a whole conversation. And then I remember getting like my first eyeshadow palette, and it was olive green and wearing that everywhere. So I think of that, but then I even think too, like it's going to sound like a Barney special, but beauty, and Ali touched on this a bit, but it starts inward. I think the amazing thing about beauty is it's a tool that can allow you to accept who you are on the inside a bit more. Of course, there's definitely a toxic relationship that you can have where you can feel like, for instance, you can't leave the house without looking perfect, whatever perfect means to you. But if it helps you give you just that extra boost of confidence, I mean, that's wonderful. So, yeah, I would say what it means to me is just giving me that boost to feel like the best version of myself.
Thanks for sharing and coming on today, Ella. I love your insights. I love the way you
Incredible.
see things, and the bubbly energy that just always comes from you is very comfy to be around, I have to say.
And Ellie, you're so
Oh,
beautiful. And
um,
I just really, like you, I really enjoyed reading your. Would you say essays? Could I say essays?
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, really.
Oh, thank
Really love
you.
drawing me in, and yeah, beautiful.
Oh my goodness. Thank you both so much. It was such a pleasure chatting with you both. So much to think about. I feel like this is my next piece just waiting to happen. So thank you.
You know, having conversations, like
Yeah.
just thinking about myself and being reflective and really wondering, yeah, what do I do think about a certain subject?
Yeah.
It's really
It
great.
gets the mind thinking.
Yeah, thanks for being our first beauty breakdown guest.
Truly honored. Thank you so, so much.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for joining us again this week for our beauty break. And don't forget to follow, like, and subscribe. And Allison?
And I just want to thank everyone for joining in, and let's see how this goes. I'm excited for our next episode.
Me too.
So, catch us next week.
See you next time.
Bye. This is a Based Here production.